Well, we are back with another Monday Mornings with Masterwall with Grant and Brian. I am Brian.
I'm Grant.
And we are here to bring you some education, entertainment, and engagement. I am sure that today will be entertaining. Outanddout.com. As always, please email us at masterwall.com and Brian Conroy at masterwall.com for questions, comments, and thoughts. Today is a great day. We have Glen Smith and Stephen Smithwick with the R&D department of Masterwall. One of the things that I thought was really, really interesting with this one is number one of Masterwall's mission statement says this: to manufacture the highest quality EIFS and related products, coatings and adhesives, etc., available in the market. And this is at its core that number one mission statement with Glen and Stephen. So with that, what I will do is I want to just turn over to the two of you. I don't care who goes first, to say one, welcome, and then secondarily, how did you get here? What have you been doing? Just an overview of who you are and what you do, and then we'll kind of get into some other little details.
I like that new title you gave me up there, Brian.
You like that? I came up with
really
something.
Well, he's got the Stephen Smithwick. He's got the namesake, so he might be the favorite after all, Stuart. Sorry.
Go ahead. You want me to go first?
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay. So kind of where it came from, how we got to here. Started out making samples in the warehouse back in high school, and after I graduated, started doing that full time and kind of moved into sales back in the early 2000s. I enjoyed that, but one of the main parts of that job was obviously going out and go visiting job sites, watching how people use the products and things like that. And I love selling, but that's definitely more my passion is how things work, trying to teach people how to use the new products Glen develops. And so that's where we're at. We kind of share a job here. Glen is awesome at developing all these things, and he bounces the ideas back and forth with me. We figure out what works, how it works, make it workable. Sometimes you can come up with a really good formula, and that doesn't mean it's going to work on the wall. Maybe the best thing ever. And Glen's really good at taking that feedback and going back and adjusting and making things workable. So that's the main part of my job, besides working with color and things like that. Me and Glen kind of share that job too, managing that color lab. So we wear many different hats here. That's
absolutely
how I got here.
I love how you're pointing the finger over to Glen a lot here, which then we really know where the work gets done, I guess.
Well, he does. Glen does a tremendous job. We would not be doing this without him. Like I said, all of the stuff starts with him, and we just give him feedback, and he is very good at knowing how to take that feedback and makes a really quick adjustment.
Yeah.
Right.
So, Glen, with that, go ahead. Where did entering into that whole thing? How long you been here and all that kind of stuff? Because I know you've been here for a while.
This, just after Labor Day, is 25 years. I started on the night crew making base coat. That was about a year and a few months, and then I became production manager. That was a few years, and then I became plant manager, again, a few years, and then on to R&D. And as Stephen was saying, it is a collaboration. It's a lot of back and forth of, there's a product needed, there's an adjustment needed. Let's see where we can take it. I'll submit, samples to Stephen. He'll work with them, give me feedback. So, we need to be a little further this way, further that way. And it's definitely a collaboration. It's worked very well.
Yeah, absolutely. In one of the things you're saying, as far as the collaboration and also innovation when it comes to those pieces of the puzzle where, especially within Masterwall, I think we find there's something that gets brought up to us, whether it's by an owner or a general contractor, and they're like, well, can we do this? And it becomes that collaborative effort from the sales team, I'll say from our side, to go to Grant to say, hey, Grant, we're getting asked by this owner or something like that. and it kind of gets tossed to you guys to kind of think through, well, could we do something there? Can we make something happen there? Which I think is a great part of it. One of those things, and we talked about this a little bit last week as we were discussing today, is the Duracoat. So give us a little bit of with Duracoat specifically, the why did that kind of get created?
There was a desire, mainly by one of our distributors, a very, very good distributor of ours. They wanted to compete in the market of coating cement board siding, and they had a main brand, a major brand that they wanted to go up against. So it was, these are the parameters, see if you can get there. And it was, you've got a benchmark and you hit the ground running and take all of the aspects of that product and work towards it.
Yeah. And that's where, go ahead.
I was going to say, one thing we found as you go through all these processes is how long some of these things take. And I know we're going to jump into that, but the Duracoat is a great example. You develop a quality product, you do field testing, you work on the marketing side of it, you figure out which contractors are willing to use it and try it. And Glen's been very patient through that whole process, developed a great product.
I'll say one other thing about the process and what Glen does, especially with this Duracoat. So the competitor's product that we were trying to match up to, that they were already using, worked really well. And that doesn't always mean a lot, as we found. So Glen had created this formula that was just absolutely amazing. And he went back and tweaked it to where it worked like the competitor's product. And what we found was when he started doing some testing with the competitor, the bond strength and things like that with the competitor product was awful. It works great, but as far as the bond strength, we were just kind of shocked at how bad it was. And this stuff is probably within their lines of paints that they sell. It's probably the most popular commercial and high-end residential product that they've got. And so it's pretty neat looking at Glen's formula. It works just like theirs, if not better. But it definitely ages much better than theirs. The bond strength is better. So that's what Glen is really good at. He'll take something, we'll give him a price point we'll try to hit, and he's really good at matching up and even making it better than the product we're trying to match up to. It's just another example of it.
I think that's an interesting thing when it comes to, here's, you can see it, right? The comparative back and forth on what's there. To show that what we do, again, go back to that, when I read through it again, just even to kind of refresh myself, usually on a basis, to read through our mission statement, to know that these are high quality products that we're trying to put out there. And so we do look at the very detailed things. And we've talked about the chemistry of finishes and things like that in a few of these episodes. But really to go in that behind the scenes aspect of knowing what are we really trying to do. I was just reading through this with the Duracoat specifically because of what it is and the competitive product that we were trying to look at. The gloss, the block resistance stuff. I have no clue what this means, but knowing that, we are doing more and more to this as far as really making sure it's quality materials.
Yeah. So if you look at that, not that everybody's going to care about this, but just to tell you that block resistance that you're looking at, one of the reasons we did that test was in a factory setting where if you're trying to paint cement board and stack the boards on top of each other after they've dried, you don't want to go pick up the boards and then have the paint peel off the board underneath it. And so Glen did a lot of work trying to make sure that didn't happen. And Glen, I don't actually know, looking at that test that you did, the competitive product, I don't know if we actually tested that other one for that. You could probably speak to that more. That one I'm not sure. I don't know if I ever saw that test done.
What do you mean test that other one?
The other product. Did we ever test the block resistance on the other one, the competitive product?
Yeah, and those
But
zeros
it really was
are,
zero.
Yeah.
Literally does zero, huh?
Yeah, it's with any formulation, when you gain one thing, you lose another. Um, Block resistance obviously is very important, and that competitive product it's rough. Even on my drawdown cards, they're called Lynetta cards. I can't even lay them on top of one another without it just having to peel them apart. Ours is much more of a much of a better release. And as you go, and this was done with the satin gloss. As you go to lower gloss products like a flat, you don't have the problem of block. As you go to more gloss like semi-gloss and high gloss, you will have that issue. But yeah, we do achieve a little bit better block resistance.
Interesting. Hey, Grant, why don't you also a little bit? I mean, and Stephen, you just did it there, and Glenn, you did in the beginning as to where this came from. But with your coat on a application side of where we see this really getting used, what's really the benefit here? What are we using Duracoat for? And maybe kind of just give an overview real quick of what that is.
You want me to hit that,
Yeah.
Brian? So your bike's kind of going in and out. You may want to check your connection on your USB. But I think, where we see opportunity is obviously our distributors are in the synthetic business. Obviously, they sell our finishes. And when they have residential customers, a lot of homes, obviously now the design is a mixed cladding look. So you have siding, you have stucco, you have stone. And really, we're trying to present our distributors with an opportunity to sell that whole exterior package. So if they're already selling our finish, obviously they're selling the stucco. Many of them already sell a stone brand product. And so when you offer them something that when they're also selling a siding product, a cement board siding product, we're offering the coating as well. So basically we're giving them a full wall opportunity to sell the entire wall. And, Glen, obviously the biggest challenge I think sometimes for Glen is we can create an awesome product, but can it fit into the price point we're trying to meet? And Glen, I don't know if you want to kind of talk about that challenge and how you work through that, creating a competitively priced product while also, recognizing the quality needs.
Well, it is one of the biggest challenges to. Yeah, there's many times where I'll develop something without a price point, and then I'll be given the price point. Like, all right, so we're dropping back and punting on this one, but it a lot of that is it can be adjusted through formulation. A lot of it is negotiation with suppliers. It's a balancing act that it takes time to get to that desired price point. And some things are prohibitive, but it's just all in the process to work to it and get to that point.
Yeah.
Well, with that, price point offering a competitive product, obviously there's a service element to it as well. And one thing, especially with these architectural coatings or paints, whatever you want to call them, there's a lot of color resources that are required for that. So Glenn, you or Stephen, you guys want to kind of hit on, what resources you kind of have discovered and moving forward, what we're looking to offer there.
Yeah, so Glenn's the detail guy. He can go into more detail about it probably, but we have bought new software, a new spectrophotometer. We've hired somebody else to come in and work with that system. There's going to be a point of sale software for the distributors that they'll be able to get. It was we don't have enough time here to go in depth on that. It'd be nice to be able to show everybody what we're going to have, but we'll do that later. But what the goal is to go ahead and get the competitor spandex matched going forward, hopefully here by the end of the year. And so when we really roll out the paint line, the formulas are already out there for all the main colors everybody's going to be looking for. And we won't be stuck when people are ordering formulas. Hey, you don't have to wait 4 or 5 days for this paint color. And we'll hopefully remove that roadblock before it even happens. So that's just kind of hitting the hot spots there. We might have more to add to that.
Yeah, and the software Stephen is talking about, you know, I took a test run of it a while back, and as I was looking at it, it was an online tutorial. It was the most impressive point of sale software I'd ever seen. It's not only color matching software, it's actually dispenser software. So it's kind of an all-in-one. It ties to your dispenser, and you can, you know, just like any other dispenser software, you can create custom formulas. You can save formulas, save jobs by customer, job name. But it's also, if you have a spectrophotometer tied to it, you can color match on the spot and obviously save your formulas through that. But as I was going through this tutorial, it was so impressive and just so easy to use and so intuitive. I thought, well, there's no way this is going to be affordable for customers. And then when I got the price, I was blown away at how reasonably priced it is. We're really excited about it. It's going to be a huge help to the customer base.
Yeah, Glen showed it to me for the first time last week. Kind of ran through the whole thing with me, and it will not take. I mean, a guy with very little experience with a tint machine would not have a hard time with this. And for somebody like me or Glen, I mean, there are so many things we can do with it. It's amazing compared to what software is in there now in most of our tint machines. It's a 9-day difference. It's amazing the amount of data it can collect for you, and it's really intuitive too.
You know, it's interesting, and hopefully the sound is better here. It's interesting. No, Grant's saying no.
You going? We can hear you.
As long as you can hear me. The thing I was going to say was it's interesting to see that the same process basically that you guys have for materials, right? And Glenn and I always been back and forth with this of, I don't want to know anything that I can sell until it's actually done. And in the same sense with this software, I mean, it's not a material, but it's a useful add value to our customers and ultimately to the end user. We want to make sure that we have everything worked out with it. That, you know, sometimes there's a project that's out there that you need the information right now or the product, but if we don't have it yet or if we haven't worked out the details, we don't want to put it out there because we don't want you, the end user, to have that issue. And so I'm going to share this one as what we talked about. And this is a modified version of literally what we have internally as far as our process so that people can see that generally, I mean, this is 12 steps. There's more than this. I just kind of cut and pasted pieces and give a broad stroke view of a process for a product. But you guys would agree, and tell me if you do or not, that this is the similar process, whether it's a product or in this case, a system like you guys are working on with this new point of sale system, correct?
Yeah, and just to point out kind of what you're saying with the amount of time this takes, is you run down through that list. I mean, you just get, all you got to do is get to number 4 there, and then point 3 and number 4. Just for points 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Just the in-house testing itself can take 2 to 3 months.
Yeah.
That doesn't include the outside third-party testing after you know that the in-house testing is done and it's functioning like we want it to. You still have to get the third-party testing done. So even if even if you call Glenn and said, hey man, come up with something for me, and he has it done that afternoon, you would still be looking at 4 months from there before we can really even push it out to market.
Yeah. And if it doesn't meet that criteria that you guys are looking for, then it pushes it back again, and it keeps pushing it back. And that's the type of thing where, especially, I mean, I think on the field test side, when we get materials to test, and then the guy says, you know what, it might have worked in the lab, but it didn't quite work well here on this outside little wall, and we have to then tweak it. Well, now we're redoing all of that kind of stuff. And I do think that a lot of times, I hope applicators especially do see this show to know the time it takes for you guys in the R&D department to come up with a new product or a new system. And we don't want to just throw it on the wall and hope for the best. That's not MasterWall, right?
No.
We are trying to create.
And we're certainly not perfect on that side of things. I'm not trying to claim we are, because as soon as I do, somebody's going to point to, hey, 5 products that you guys didn't do this on. But the thing about it not working on the wall, we've hopefully eliminated that way before you even get up to steps 6 or 7 or 8. Probably even before we do the in-house testing, we're going to have that worked out. Right. So that should never be an issue. Not saying it hasn't ever been an issue, but that's our goal.
Yeah.
Well, and Brian, as you know, sales want everything. and what you find out is along the way, every department is involved in this process. And if there's ever a roadblock in any department, that's going to stop the process, because somebody may say, this just is not going to work in our department. This process will not work. And sometimes, a product dies because of that issue. And sometimes that's okay.
Yeah.
Glenn, I interrupted you. I think you were going to say something.
No, I thought twice about what I was going to say.
Well, hey, questions always, please feel free to raise your hand or ask a question here on the chat button. But, to your point of the time factor too, and we talked about this, it was like 2.5, 3 years for Duracoat to really come out to be where it is right now and readily available and right there. And so I think that part of knowing that Masterwall really wants quality products that are out there in the market, not just, oh, we have a competitor selling this, let's go ahead and make something on our own. If it works, who cares? It's not a big deal. It's just a competitor. No, we want to make sure it's working and it's working well. And otherwise just walk away. And that's not easy. It is. As a sales guy, that's not easy to walk away from that job knowing we could maybe have that product, but it's not going to be cost competitive. It's not going to perform well. And I rely on talking. I mean, how many times, Glenn, you and I have talked, right? To just, you give me information so that I can completely understand why we may not have this right now. And you know what? I would rather have that information to go back to the architect or the owner or the applicator and say, guys, look, I could give you something, but it's not going to work. And I don't want to do that to you. That's not Masterwall. And we talk all the time about that stuff.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. I was going to go back a little bit to the point of sale, your favorite term, Brian.
Yeah, I love that. Oh my goodness.
but we have Chip. I see Chip Blum's on here, and then Steve Younce is on here as well. So Chip with L&W and Steve from Guaranteed, and they're perfect examples and would probably understand what I'm about to say. But what we found is, in the distributor realm, there are obviously several different service levels offered in a distribution model, and what we're trying to do is help at the local level streamline some of the color processes, because not every location has someone who has a great eye for color. So Glenn, I think what we're offering here with this point of sale system is allowing our Masterwall to offer a better service, but also allow the distributors to offer a better on-time local service that doesn't require a lot of work. It requires a monetary investment, but it doesn't require more personnel to be able to offer their customers quick on-time service when it's needed.
Yeah.
So Steve and Chip, I don't know if you want to add anything to that as you understand that difficulty. But that's just what we've seen in the market, and that's why we're trying to help resolve that issue, really for the contractors in the field more than anybody.
Yeah.
And that is one of our biggest struggles, Grant. Color can always be an issue. And it's just one day, it's one bucket. Everything was perfect except for that one bucket, that can make a difference. So anything that can help us along that line makes a huge difference for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. Anybody else, please feel free to chime in, questions, comments. I think that overall, when it comes to any R&D department, it's a struggle, right? I mean, it's a fight with sales. It's a fight with the market. It's a constant be up to date. As much as when I do my presentations for architects, I mention they have to be up to date on things. And I think, and it's a struggle for them, right? Because they get owners that are researching things online and they see things that are out there. So I think that's the biggest thing. The question I would ask the two of you would be, what would be the one thing that you would want people to know about an R&D department, and specifically into Masterwall's R&D department, whether it's a positive, negative, or a suggestion of, hey, when you bring things, we need this, bring us more information or bring us an idea or a concept. What's the one thing that you think is the most important that everybody else should know?
For me, and you've already touched on it, it's time. Obviously in this business, you don't always have the luxury of time. I mean, if you're trying to get a job or multiple jobs, it's got to happen fast. Just the knowledge that it takes time to, especially if you're starting from scratch, to all those steps. The process takes time, but the goal is never for us to drag our feet. It's to get it out there. But we want to do it in a way where we know that we've covered all the bases before we get it out there. That, and if there is a potential for us, like you said, information, physical samples help tremendously. If there's something that needs to be replicated, getting an actual sample of that material really helps us out a lot.
Glenn would probably agree with this. That may be the thing we have the hardest time with. I mean, we can have people come and request a new product from us, and we'll say, okay, great, get us some wet material, untinted, as clean as possible. And it can literally take months just to get that 1 5-gallon pail or 1 gallon pail from somebody. And by the time that's happened, you've got the customer calling saying, hey, you guys ever going to get this done? And we're like, we haven't been able to start yet because we don't have that wet material. That's a really big issue with this.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I will interject something here and just say that Glenn Smith is the most conservative guy when it comes to product development and formulas, which is a good thing for Masterwall. Glenn dots the I's, crosses the T's, double checks it many, many times. So appreciate his thoroughness in that area.
Everybody can look at the chat and look at Jeff Knight's question or comment. That's definitely not how it works.
Glenn, talking about the time thing, and this may not be the best example, but kind of compare it to how this vaccine process is working right now, because I think that's a real world example of how the product development process works. You think you have something great that works, you do some field tests, and you find out, well, shoot, this doesn't work, and you have to go back to the drawing board, like Brian says. Now, obviously, product development isn't as important as vaccine development. That's not what I'm saying. Right. But I think a real world example that people could understand as we're seeing this process play out is kind of how your process works.
Honestly, the first on Duracoat, I tried, I think it was 3 different versions from the outset, and all 3 had I was happy with all of them, and then we have a QUV cabinet, which is a accelerated weathering chamber. It inflicts a pretty harsh environment on the samples, and as those samples were going through, I'll check it on each stage just to take a peek at it and see how it's reacting. They did not react well, and that's one of those things where I've done this development, and it's in this first stage of weathering, and I had to go back and start over, honestly. So none of those versions are what we have now. Now, what we have currently went through that test with flying colors. So it is, sometimes you just have to stop and go back to square one.
Yeah. I think that timepiece is such a lost and misunderstood tool that in their life, in business, in sales, in development. I mean, time is so valuable, and we know that it is. And when you're on the other side trying to listen to this, that's a struggle, because we're right on the front lines, so to speak, to the person who's asking us to get something to a competitor. However, I look at the wonderful, phenomenal wood grain material that Masterwall has, when others that are out there trying to watch and do what we've done, we've been the ones in the forefront with that. And we're the ones who are innovative enough to have that product and that system out there that people now are struggling with the time factor on their side, that it's not Masterwall only. Everybody struggles with this aspect. Hey, I want to thank you guys. 11 o'clock, so like we do, 30 minutes, we're here and we're out. Everybody that's on there listening, next week, LKL, Guaranteed Supply, and Rosa Materials distributor meeting is who we are bringing in to distribution, what's out there, how Masterwall works, adds value to just like this R&D process. So appreciate your time, Glenn and Stephen. As always, Grant, it's a pleasure working with you on this. And everybody enjoy the rest of your week.
Everybody just send Glenn an email with every product you want. I'm sure he'd appreciate that. Just
Yes,
kidding.
Please do.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Thank
you,
you,
guys.
guys. We're good, Stuart.